Hi there, welcome to your Championship recap from Not the Top 20 podcast, sponsored by Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. Me, Ali Maxwell, and him, George Elek, looking forward to breaking it all down for you. I dare say that my good friend George may be even more excited than me, because to kick us off from this Championship docket, Leicester City 1, Oxford United 2, led to the demise, the sacking of Martí Cifuentes. But also, with Oxford United winning this match, they are, for the second time in the best part of 2 months, this week's Sky Bet surprise, the longest priced winners of the weekend with Sky Bet. How on earth did this happen once again, George?
Oh, what a game. You're recording this Sunday evening and I'm still buzzing off the back of it, to be honest. And there are loads of ways that Oxford did this. And Oxford, the Sky Bet surprise this week, at a price of 3-1 to win this game. And I think most of this, the credit has to come down to the new managerial duo, manager Matt Bloomfield and his assistant head coach Mike Dodds. Because when the team sheet came out on Saturday at 1:45, Oxford fans were up in arms. It was this switch back to the back five or back three that had been so unsuccessful under Gary Rowett. It was Mark Harris in for Will Lancashire. Harris, a player that I think a lot of Oxford fans had seen enough of and would have preferred to be making their way out of the door rather than starting games in the Championship away from home. And the perception and the assumption was, this is a negative team. This is a team that's going to see us get well beaten by Leicester in a game that we absolutely have to win. And the reality was anything but, where the energy of Harris leading the line, flanked by Miles Peart-Harris and Stan Mills, like three really athletic, energetic, fast players, meant that those three kind of pressed the Leicester back line in a pack that was incredibly effective. Like, Leicester really struggled to play through the lines. They really struggled to get the ball into the feet of the of their dangerous wide players, in particular Mavididi and Fatawu. When the goal came, it came by thanks to a long throw, but it wasn't Will Vaulks this time. It was Miles Peart-Harris, who knew that he had a long throw, launching the ball to the near post. Kieran Brown with the trademark flick on, and Sam Long at the back post to divert it home. Peart-Harris should have had a second, a goal disallowed for basically nothing late in the first half, but it was Oxford who got the second goal, and just one of my favourite goals as an Oxford fan, where Mark Harris, for all his goals in League One, he finds it very difficult to score easy goals, basically, or goals he has time to think about. If you look at his goals in the last year or so, scored that ridiculous volley after Matt Phillips chested it down to him last season against Blackburn. Scored like a really instinctive goal from close range against Norwich, against Ipswich a couple of weeks ago. When he had time to think of the first shot, he scuffed it and the ball came back to him and he instinctively put it away. Normally, if you want Mark Harris to score a goal, he has to have no time to think about what he's doing. This time, from a Leicester corner, the ball broke to Kersmacher, who somehow got there first, got it to Peart-Harris, who played the ball back to Kersmacher, who played a brilliant through ball to Mark Harris. And there was no defensive line. There were no defenders, which meant that Mark Harris had approximately 10 seconds from getting on the ball, running clear, looking over both shoulders, seeing there was no one there, and taking the time to round the keeper and plant the ball in the back of the net. Just a huge goal for him, a huge goal for his career, I would say. Like, I think had Mark Harris put that wide or had not scored the goal and Oxford hadn't won the game, I'm not over-exaggerating by saying I think that would have been the end of his Oxford career straight away. I think fans would have been done with him. And now, hopefully, we're going to see him find a way to show what he's capable of. Fatawu scored with 10 or so minutes to go to make it relatively nervy, but throughout the game, Leicester really struggled to create anything of note. And it was Oxford who probably had the better chances. Stan Mills had one that was deflected just wide. Peart-Harris did well and had a shot that was skewed wide. 84 passes completed for Oxford in the game.
No.
And a game that they deserved to win. By genuinely any metric whatsoever. Leicester will feel like this is nothing to write home about. They will feel like they are a poor team at the moment, and it's hard to disagree with that, and they made the decision to sack Cifuentes. For Oxford, who when making heavy weather of beating Sheffield Wednesday away from home on October the 25th, since that game, Oxford have won 3 games in the Championship. They've come against Ipswich, Southampton and Leicester, the 3 teams that were relegated last season from the Premier League. Absolutely balmy, but they put themselves back in kind of touching distance of safety. And as we keep saying, there's this mini league that's going to start for Oxford in March, where they play, I think, 7 of the current bottom 8. If they can find a way to put away the worst teams and find a way to maybe put in good performances when they see more of the ball, then they're going to have a chance. But this was, for Matt Bloomfield and his tenure at the club, not an overwhelmingly popular choice when appointed manager. The scenes at full time, like, firstly, he very did something very smart. 3,000 Oxford fans, over 3,000 Oxford fans made the trip to Leicester on Saturday before the game. Bloomfield went over to those away fans and just chatted with them before the game in a way that I think made a lot of people warm to him. And then at the final whistle, and there was no chatting. It was a sprint across the pitch, desperately trying not to slip on the muddy surface. And then it wasn't the lame, rehearsed 3 cheers. It was running over to the fans and giving it about 7 big ones. Clearly incredibly emotional. And yeah, we've had some good days this season. There have been more bad days, but it did feel like Saturday's win at Leicester, A, is one that away fans will remember for a long time, but B, no matter whether it's in League One or the Championship, it's the day that I think people brought into Matt Bloomfield and what he's trying to do.
It's a fantastic start for Bloomfield, one that I didn't necessarily see coming, but I think coming into a club in the relegation zone, drawing your first 2 games 0-0, having the best chance in both games, narrowly in both cases winning the XG battle, and then following it up with an away win. I mean, it's just a really strong platform for him to build on. Still so much work to do, of course. A number of the other teams in the relegation battle, namely Norwich, namely Pompey, are or have been picking up points recently, so it is certainly not easy. But it was really genuinely lovely to see how buzzing you were in various WhatsApp groups yesterday afternoon, throughout the whole afternoon and the whole evening as well. But Leicester City fans weren't feeling that. This was another poor afternoon, another poor display. They're left with a record that has seen them lose more league games than win league games this season. It's unacceptable for any team coming down from the Premier League. It's certainly unacceptable for a squad like this. And Martí Cifuentes has carried the can. And it's an interesting one, isn't it, George? Because Cifuentes is a manager that we respect a lot, particularly for the job he did when he first came in at QPR. You know, his transformation of QPR, particularly out of possession, and the organisation of that team, the way that he carried them, well away from any relegation fears and re-established themselves as a mid-table team with what is a fairly poor and generally quite thin squad. And then he got the move to Leicester, which he seemed very keen to make happen. But pretty much from the first weekend, and barring, it doesn't escape me, George, that last week on the pod we wondered aloud when was Leicester's best performance of the season, and you could recall that one game against Birmingham City early on in the campaign, and I couldn't recall any 90-minute performances where I've been impressed by Leicester City. And he gets sacked with the club in a league position that doesn't look like it spells relegation trouble, but of course with the wider context of the club, this feels really, really potentially quite volatile when it comes to Leicester at the moment, and it's nothing we didn't see coming, really.
So yeah, if you look at the league table as it stands now, Leicester on 39 points in 14th, 38 points in 14th, and that is thanks in the main to some early season form. If they were to be deducted 9 points, which seems to be an assumed amount they may be deducted if and when that ever happens, and that will put them on 29 points, which is what Blackburn Rovers are currently on in 22nd place. So they will only be out of the relegation zone on goal difference. And the way that I see it is that Leicester could very, very easily go down this season, the way they're playing at the moment.
If they get deducted,
if they get, well, I mean, yeah, if they get deducted 9 points.
Yeah.
It is not a huge surprise, I guess, when you think about it, that their best performance of the season, as I saw it, was that game against Birmingham, where they completely suffocated Birmingham's ability to play through the lines, and they were really solid defensively, and they picked their moments and attacked really well, Fatah in particular, where that was a game where they played against a team who wanted loads of the ball and they could sit in their defensive shape. Like, that was the success that Cifuentes had at QPR. That, for the most part, isn't how you're going to play when you're a Leicester manager in the Championship. Like, you are going to be given the ball a lot. You're going to come up against teams, especially at home, who are going to sit incredibly deep and look to frustrate you. And therefore, especially after hiring Maresca last time, and yeah, of course, the squad is different, but there are quite a lot of players in this squad who were there and played a massive part in Leicester's title win. Like, you would think that Fatah is a better player now. You see Mavididi, who's obviously there. Like, Winks may not be playing at the moment, but he's played over 1,300 minutes this season. Pereira was obviously a massive part of that team. Jordan James comes in, who would have been a huge player for that team, better than most options they had at that time. Vestergaard is there. Like, it's not that different. And yet they decided to go for a manager who's playing philosophy, or at the very least, the success that he'd had as a manager in England in the Championship was just totally different to the blueprint that they had recruited for before. And even though, I think Cifuentes is someone who, let's say a team who are currently in the bottom six, Blackburn, for example, if they wanted to make a managerial change in the next couple of weeks, I think Cifuentes would be an excellent choice, because then again, it would suit the job that he was initially brought in to do and had success in. But this always felt pretty clunky, and I'm not entirely sure why it was the case that he was seen as being the best candidate to do that. And I think when they make the decision as to who they bring in now, they've got to look to bring someone in who I think, which is probably difficult to do. If they believe that they're going to be deducted the 9 points and they think they're in a relegation battle, there's probably going to be the temptation to go and be like, right, let's get Rowett in and make sure we stay up in the build for next season. But I think that could be incredibly dangerous, because again, you need to bring someone in who's going to allow these players you have in your squad, who would walk into any team, like Jordan James, Abdul Fattawu. These players could go to Ipswich, could go to, whoever you want, Coventry, and immediately become star players there. You need to get a manager in who's going to get them dominating games, rather than maybe someone who wants to be a bit more passive and can't really coach the way that you need to play if you're going to dominate from in possession. So, yeah. I think Cifuentes leaves with his reputation probably damaged. I think someone, kind of as I said, I think someone will probably profit from seeing the kind of profile that he is and the job that he should be doing when they next hire him. I have very little faith in Leicester and the appointment that they're going to make now. But Andy King, who's come in as caretaker manager, is immediately the bookmaker's favourite. So let's see what he's got.
There's a lot of positivity at Middlesbrough, George. Things are going very, very well there. 4-0 winners at home to PNE early on Saturday.
And it was total domination, apart from the first 2 minutes. In the first 2 minutes of the game, Preston won a couple of corners. They came incredibly close to scoring. They wanted a penalty. It was all action. A Preston side who'd really struggled for form recently. And then the tide turned. And the tide turned in one moment. It's worth saying that when the ball came through to Alan Brown, and he was a brilliant touch and a very, very good finish, that was the first shot that Boro had in the game. It wasn't as if, they'd, after the first 2 minutes, then the onslaught had come. But that goal massively changed things. And from then on, Preston North End didn't have a single shot in the game from the second minute onwards. It was just brilliant play from Middlesbrough, who just poured forward every opportunity, just carried on winning the ball really high. And when they won the ball high, converting that into decent goal scoring opportunities. Alan Brown should have scored a second. A nice muted celebration, I'd say, for the first one. It was like, I think the way you should celebrate mute, where he said, calm, I'm not celebrating, and then he just gave a couple of fist pumps. It's like, yeah, look, I'm giving you some respect, but I'm also happy that I've scored for my club. Yeah. So this, but it, what are positions? Exactly. Natural. He's a natural. No one's a natural anything. We weren't born footballers. You just you might have a skill set that makes you more impactful in certain areas, but no one's a natural anything. And Alan Brown showing that now, like a player who's played centre midfield for a lot of his career, played right back recently, and now playing this I just don't even know what position it is, just kind of right. Just you just run up and down that right channel, mate, and you find yourself in space because no one really plays there. So when we fizz the ball into the near post, you're going to be standing on your own. He nearly scored a second. Unbelievable touch to get out of his feet, and then he kind of. It was nearly quite a cool finish, but he started the ball too far outside the post. Well, I was trying to work that out because from the behind angle, the way that it curls is, I couldn't really work out what happened. But
just a poor, weaker foot shot, I thought.
Tommy Conway was then set through 1-1 and finished through the keeper's legs just about. Morgan Whittaker, another one of these high turnovers, wins the ball and finished really well. They go in at half-time 3-0 up. Jordan Story's then sent off for, I think it's quite harsh. It's like Conway gets in behind him and gets there definitely first. But there's like a bit of a tangle, but they are miles out, and there is a covering defender, but he gets shown a straight red for it. Like I can see why you'd think Conway probably will get a shot away, and that is of course the law. Like, are you preventing a goal scoring opportunity? Have you made any? He clearly made no attempt to play the ball. but I don't think you can be that confident that would have been the case given they were 40 yards out. Either way, you get sent off. Conway then scores to make it 4-0 against 10 men. And it's another great day for Boro fans. But the thing is, for me, that I think often gets overlooked when talking about managers is people, you look at results, you look at playing style, you look at sometimes completely erroneously, in my view, like recruitment and transfers. It's just like how are players playing who haven't been playing that well, I think is such a good measure of how a manager or head coach is doing. Like we spoke about on last Monday, where often managers don't have anywhere near as big an impact as we as fans think they do. But when a guy comes into a club and Alan Brown looks like how he's playing at the moment, Tommy Conway, who I think most Boro fans would have driven and dropped off anywhere they wanted a couple of weeks ago, is now back scoring goals, looking really confident. Morgan Whittaker's looking like the player they thought they'd signed exactly a year ago. You're seeing individuals in a very short space of time look better individually, really well drilled in terms of the system that they're playing, and impacting games more consistently. And that for me is why, of course it's a brilliant watch, and we can all watch Kilm Hellberg's Boro and be impressed. But they've gone, in my mind, for being a team that maybe lacked the quality needed within the squad and the depth to kind of go the distance this season, to now I'm thinking they're absolutely part of this three-way tug of war at the top, to see who can win the league and who can come second.
Well, they've taken the most points in the Championship since Kim Hellberg took over. That obviously included a 4-game run where they didn't score, even though they were averaging 20 shots a game in that 4-game run. So, although Hull, I should say, have a better PPG in that time, the most points in the league since Hellberg took over, Hellberg's Boro. And just on Conway, I was so happy that he scored, and it wasn't for Conway, although I was. It was because before the game in midweek, where Conway scored his first goal for ages, Hellberg talked about him in the press conference, and he talked about how he does everything for the team. He's like the reason why I fell in love with this sport. This is why you understand you've chosen to play football, because it's a team sport. You're doing everything for the team. You're not playing tennis. You're not playing for yourself. You're playing for everyone else. And I think he's unbelievable. And basically said, he's actually the first or second name I put down on the team sheet because he's brilliant for the team. Just imagine what it's been like for Conway going through the goalless, the streak without scoring, understanding what people are saying about you online, in pubs and in the stands, and then hearing your manager say that when you've probably been wanting to say all along, I think I do quite a lot of work for the team that helps the team be better, but it's kind of hard to measure that with goals and assists, and then you score 3 in 2 games. It's just brilliant, and I'm sure there'll be challenges ahead, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Hellberg's Boro take them on. Ipswich had a challenge heading to Sheffield United. They didn't pass it. Sheffield United 3, Ipswich 1. The first goal came from Ipswich's own corner. What is happening in the Championship? I have seen 4 goals scored in the last 7 days following the opposition team's attacking corner. It happened in your game against Leicester. It may not have been a corner, but it was certainly a set piece that they put everyone up for Mark Harris's goal. It happened to Hull. Their goal in midweek was scored on the break from Preston's corner. It happened here when Ipswich were broken on by Sheffield United. And Gus Harmer, who hadn't started in 4 games before this, former Championship player of the season last season under Wilder, but Wilder hasn't always found a place for him in the current iteration of this team. But brilliant ball over the top, set up Callum O'Hare to score on the break and get a big old bang in the face in the process. Andre Brooks scored the second goal, deflected from range. It was the third shot of an attack that Ipswich just couldn't keep the ball getting back to Sheffield United players and getting shots off, and it was deflected in. Jack Clark, who is now the joint second top scorer in the Championship with quite a few others, scored a penalty to make it 2-1, but Patrick Bamford scored from another lovely assist from Harmer. Bamford had missed a chance at the end of the game in midweek against Southampton, which could have rescued a point for Blades, but a really nice composed finish on the half volley here. He was then sent off 2 fairly comical yellow cards, you have to say. The first one was for petulance. Did he punch the advertising hoarding or something when a decision went against him, and then he was sent off for a dive, which was a massive dive, trying to win a pen off the keeper, and so that was disappointing for Bamford. But the only blot in the copybook, really. A good performance for Blades, back in business after back-to-back defeats. But the context of those games, they battered Charlton in the first half and ended the first half with 9 men and lost 1-0. but were clearly the better side. They were beaten in midweek against Saints, who were the better side in the first half, but Sheffield United came back into it and could easily have left with a point. I don't think the performance level has dropped massively. I'm not particularly worried about Sheffield United. They might run out of road when it comes to reaching the playoffs, which I predicted a couple of weeks ago, but I certainly still see them as one of the better teams in the league at the moment. Saricki, the right back, Peck, the centre midfielder, getting quite a lot of love, even from Ipswich fans on NTT20 squad, which shows the strength of their performance. And for Town, yes, this away record, isn't it? 4 wins, 4 draws, 5 defeats away from home. They've got Preston on Saturday at home, and then it's 4 straight away in the Championship. They've got some injuries. Philogene, for example. They've got Anis Mehmeti signed for £3 million from Bristol City, which we've covered on NTT20.com. And they've also, as I've noticed, getting some good output from Wes Burns recently since he's come back from injury. Now, it's a classic one with Ipswich. It's like the kind of old guard versus the new wave. And it's that transition that I think they're still trying to wrestle with. But when I watch Burns playing on Ipswich's right, the thing that I see constantly happening is him getting in behind and getting cutbacks from the byline and setting up chances for teammates, as well as getting on the end of things at the other end. And I think that's what they need for this style of play. That's Ipswich at their best. And Egley, who they brought in for lots of money, has clearly got a wicked shot on him, is going to be a big goal threat as he adapts to the league, but he's not the same type of player. And I feel that Burns might be better for what Ipswich need right now, and the best version of Ipswich in attack probably has a player like Burns on that side, trying to get the ball across for those in the number 10 roles up top, and of course the danger men off the left, in particular Jack Clark. So good win for Sheffield United. We'll see what happens with Coventry on Monday night. They're at Norwich, which is a mouth-watering tie. They currently have a 3-point lead over Middlesbrough, with that game in hand over Boro, and then Ipswich, who've also played 1 game less than Boro, are 5 points behind Boro now on 50 and 8 points behind Coventry City. So that's the picture in the top 3. We had a massive win in the playoffs. Millwall 4, Charlton 0 in the South London derby. Whether you watched this one with your eyes, whether you looked at the top line stats, or whether you just looked at the underlying numbers, this was a thumping, a pumping, an absolute battering for Millwall. 59 touches in Charlton's box. I've not seen that before. I mean, I don't check the touches in the box stats for every game, every single game week, but that is just remarkable and just shows that Charlton could not handle them. It's kind of funny to me that Aziz didn't actually get a goal or assist in this game, because for me, watching it back, this was clearly a Femi Aziz game once again. Him, the star player, the standout player. It was his wicked cross from the right that ended up with the goal going in off the defender for the own goal. He set up Josh Coburn with an unbelievable piece of wing play, only for Coburn to miss a sitter at the back post. He scored a great header as well, which was disallowed for offside. And Millwall got 3 more after that. A set-piece goal from big Caleb Taylor, and then 2 in injury time for Kundal and Amaku. They were just loving life. And look, I thought in the week ahead of this that if Charlton played anything like they had done in their last 2 games, against Sheffield United 11v11 and then against Derby in midweek, and if Millwall played anything like they did against Watford, probably their best performance of the season, this was going to be a battering, and that's exactly what it was. So Millwall have now got a 6-point gap to 7th place. Really nice cushion built up over the last couple of weeks. Sheffield United at home for them next is a big one, and then Wrexham away as well, who are now in 6th. That is a big one. Who else we got, George? Well, Hull City are a point above Millwall. They kept on rolling, beating Swans 2-1 at home.
Kind of feels like Hull's season just in a game, this one, where they took the lead through Ollie McBurney through a penalty after 24 minutes or so. Like a really strange, quite a lot of weird things happened this weekend, I found. Like weird goals, weird penalties. This one was one where the ball was crossed in. Ben Kabanga goes up to head it away and just decides, you know what, let's just throw a hand. Just get a hand up there and kind of palm the ball. Like, didn't argue. It wasn't like he was trying to deceive anyone. It was just like, I've just put my hand up there and palmed it away. Penalty given. Ollie McBurney dispatches it, as he always does. What a signing he's been. And then Josh Tymon, who under Vitor Matos is just looking unbelievable. In every game that they play, he is Swansea's biggest creative outlet. And, you know, we've always known he's got a brilliant left foot, but what we're seeing now with a striker like Vopotnik, who does very little apart from basically playing off the shoulder of the last man and trying to make runs into the box, trying to lose his man, and is very good at doing it. Timon, with that kind of target to aim at, is having a whale of a time, and he should have had 2 assists in 7 minutes. The first is a cross. In fairness to Vipotnik, and I think I'll be the only person trying to make any kind of case, it definitely gets a deflection very early on after the cross is made, which possibly puts him off. But either way, he's at the back post with an open goal, and he just completely mistimes his tap-in and fires it wide of the goal. 7 minutes later, another brilliant cross from Timon, this time no deflection. And Vipotnik does really well to kind of wrestle away from the two Hull centre-backs. And this one's a bit trickier because it's a bouncing ball, but again, in basically the same area. Just hits the ball the wrong side of the post again. Swansea missing 2 huge chances. Top scorer in the league, who's been so good in front of goal all season, comes up against Hull and misses both of them. And Hull are like, yeah, that's fine. Cheers. But what we do is we completely defy logic and we score goals whenever we go forward. And Regan Slater gets on the ball, is given a lot of time and fires a beautiful strike into the top right-hand corner. From there, Hull had a few chances. Swansea came on strong in the second half. Cullen headed one home from a corner with kind of half an hour or so to go, but they didn't create much more after that, and the best chance actually came for Carl Joseph, who'd already missed a decent chance in the first half too. And I think that's the important thing to mention here, is before Hull fans get upset, because Hull are 4th and Hull are a scintillating watch. I've got players in McBurney and in Gelhardt who at different times of the season have been goal-scoring sensations. When you've got that in your team, it's pretty easy to pick up points. And actually, on the balance of play here, if you take out the 2 Vipotnik chances, they're deserving winners because they missed chances themselves. The key thing here for Hull is that in so many games this season, the big moments seem to go their way, where like it is unbelievable the not only big chances but the important chances that are missed against them, and their capacity to find ways to score and find ways to score the crucial goal. Like, it's incredible. It's clutch. It obviously defies logic in terms of the data and the underlying numbers. They concede a lot of goals, but they score a lot of goals, and it's the scoring of goals rather than the conceding that is the thing that's keeping them, where they are right now. I still think in the last few weeks we've definitely seen a shift in their in the way that their games look, where they were far more end-to-end than they are now. I think now they are a little bit better defensively. I think they've lost something going forward at the same time, but that's understandable. And I'm sure there are probably Hull fans listening to this pod who, when I spoke about Middlesbrough, saying they're in a 3-way tug of war, like, where are we? And, they're only 2 points off thirds. They've obviously got a huge chance of finishing the top 2. I still can't really see it myself, or I think they're quite clearly the least likely of the 4. But, there comes a point, it's the end of January, where you've got to just say to Sergei Yakurovich and his team, they are absolutely incredible at finding a way to get over the line.
Yeah, absolutely. A 7-point gap now to 7th for Hull. But that's me looking down. How about being an optimist? 5 points off second spot. We're going to have musical chairs, aren't we, in 6th spot from now until the end of the season, Georgia. It already feels like one that will go down to final day, as it, I think, quite regularly does. We've got new members of the top 6, and they've crashed the championship party, and it's Wrexham. 3 promotions in a row, 6th in the championship with, 17 games to go. And the way they did this at QPR, I'm still trying to work out how this has happened.
What has happened here? What is this game of football? Like, so many weird things in this game. Another weird game. Firstly, the first QPR goal is phenomenal. Like, Karamoka Dembele has a shot which Okoronkwo saves with a really, really good save. Dembele thinks he scored. He has to he's halfway to celebrating the corner. The ball comes out to him. He does quite well to battle with the Wrexham defenders. And then the ball kind of falls over Harvey Vale's shoulder as he's running the other way. And he just tracks it around and just swivels and hits it left-footed on the volley, like, so purely into the top right-hand corner. Like, this is just a phenomenal strike and not an easy one to do, given the way he has to contort his body as the ball kind of ricochets into his path. And Wrexham didn't have a single shot in the first half of this game. There was kind of no suggestion whatsoever that this was going to go the way that it ended up going. And QPR looked, pretty good value for their lead, and given that they are generally a pretty solid defensive side who came up here off the back of 2-0 draws, probably fancied him to go win it relatively comfortably. But Callum Doyle scored a good equaliser after half time, started the move himself in a deep area, a couple of passes, and he's kind of carried on running up the left hand side, then finished well past Walsh. Steve Cook then scored. It looks like a kind of training ground header where it's like a drill. The corner is played in. Cook just kind of runs towards it completely untracked and unmarked and just nods it pretty comfortably into the back of the net. I've never seen an easier set piece goal and probably a more frustrating concession. And that came with 10 minutes or so to go. So Parky looks at his bench and thinks, who can I bring on? I'll bring on Josh Windass. He's a good player. I'll bring on Ollie Rathbone. He's a good player too. He's been quite good for me recently. Windass had 5 shots he came in the 83rd minute, had 5 shots in the 10 or so minutes that he was on the pitch. And it was the fifth of those shots which got the goal. Another just, you have to kind of see it to believe it goal. The ball falling to him from a set piece. It takes an absolute age to drop out of the sky, and he's got defenders who are closing him down, so he has to be patient. But he can't let it drop down as low as he wants it to drop, because otherwise the defenders are going to get there. So he takes it high, and I've got no idea how he keeps the ball down. And like the technique to hit the ball the way that he hit it, with the height on the ball, and not hit it miles over the bar, I don't really understand. I know that he's not a big one for celebrating, but to score a goal like that and of that magnitude, and then to basically shrug his shoulders and walk off was quite strange.
He looked a bit grumpy.
He did, yeah. But I kind of looked it up, and he's given a few interviews about this before, saying people only seem to notice when it's kind of goals that matter, but I basically never celebrate. And then that was in the 93rd minute, and then right at the death, Windass gives the ball to Ollie Rathbone, nothing to lose, hits it from 25 yards, an incredible strike into the top left-hand corner, and Wrexham win the game 3-2. Absolutely remarkable how they managed to win this. QPR fans will have no idea how they've lost it. They'd have gone into injury time feeling really confident and really cosy, because Wrexham had barely threatened them all game. But a couple of moments of quality from two players, when Wrexham can call on Windass and Rathbone off the bench, especially two players who have been in decent form, it goes to show how important their squad depth might be. And that puts them in the top 6. For the first time this season. So, this really could be happening. Wrexham really could be doing the clean sweep.
Rathbone scored a 91st minute equaliser against Watford when he came off the bench with 1 minute to go in the game. That was after missing the first part of the season through an injury. He also scored a 77th minute winner against Preston. He scored the second goal against Blackburn a couple of weeks ago in a 2-0 win, and a brilliant swivel volley it was too. And now this 94th minute winner against QPR, also off the bench. So he's only had 10 shots in the Championship this season. He scored 4 goals from them and has directly contributed 7 points to Wrexham, which is quite remarkable. And it makes me happy that this is possibly the least sexy player in the Wrexham squad on a number of different levels, and I absolutely love that. But what a fantastic worker he's been, and we've basically watched his development over the last 5 years, and it is astounding. I'm so glad he's doing so well, and there we go. Wrexham in 6th spot is quite remarkable. Bristol City are 7th. They beat Sheffield Wednesday by 2-0. They had to be patient here. It wasn't, they had to wait until the second half when the goal came. It was a header from Scott Twine, which is a bit of a collector's item, someone who normally is scoring 25-yard free kicks, but it was a good cross from the right, I think McCrory, and a thumping header as well. And then Sam Bell, who spent first half of the season on loan at Wycombe, but now his role at Bristol City for the time being, anyway, until they make signings, if they do make signings, and they're not in any rush by the looks of things, but he's going to play quite an important role, because Anis Mehmeti is now an Ipswich player. Anis Mehmeti playing in that kind of left-sided attacking role. Anis Mehmeti responsible for a lot of Bristol City's attacking output, particularly goals. And Sam Bell is going to have to fill in and scoring, picking up some pieces and rolling into an empty net to make it 2-0. Bell is someone who probably has not proven himself to be a consistent starter for Bristol City, has had flashes in what is still a young career where he has looked like someone that has really good goal scorer's instincts, kind of a wide poacher, I would describe Sam Bell as in my head. Not someone who's going to have a lot of touches of the ball, not someone that's going to do a huge amount of dribbling, beating his fullback off the dribble. But, you know, if you spend enough time in the final third and if you circulate the ball down the opposite side, Bell's the kind of wide attacker that will sneak in and score one-touch finishes inside the box. So not a bad person to have come back and be added to the Bristol City squad, even if it's very clear that City fans are pretty fed up with losing players without buying any players. Quite a lot of anti-board level, anti-sporting director level chants before the game there. And a really emotional moment for Barry Bannon, who is leaving Sheffield Wednesday after 477 appearances for the club, has been an astounding servant for the football club in basically every single way, not least as just a mesmeric midfielder who creates, who scores goals, through whom everything runs. But also, you know, in what's been a pretty horrible time over the last 12 and 18 months, up until this point, of course, where he is now leaving. He really has been pretty amazing when it comes to loyalty to the club. And I think it is expected that he will join Alex Neil at Millwall, which will be a really interesting signing for them. And it will be weird to see Barry Bannon playing for another team. So we've got Hull in 4th on 50, Millwall 49 in 5th, then a 5-point jump to Wrexham in that last playoff spot on 44. 3 teams on 43, Bristol City, Watford and Preston, 2 on 42, Stoke and Derby, QPR on 40, round out the top half. So all very, very dense. We had 4 1-1 draws to finish us off in the Championship. The South Coast Derby ended with spoils shared as it did in the first half of the season. This was a more eventful game than the one at St Mary's. Pompey making the running in the first half, but Adam Armstrong had the biggest chance of the first half, you'd say, despite Portsmouth looking like the better side to my eyes. And that was pretty much the case in the second half as well. Portsmouth looked like the better side overall, but really weren't executing in the final third, didn't look particularly dialed in on that front. And then, just like so many other teams before them in the last week, as detailed, they conceded from their own set piece. Counter-attack after a clearance was plucked out the sky from Finn Azaz, who shifted it forward to Leo Cienza, breaking forward, one-on-one, finishing well. The 4th team to concede from their own attacking set piece in the last 7 days. And because Saints had done that annoying rival thing of turning Portsmouth round, having won the toss, so making it that Pompey didn't attack the Fratton end in the second half as they ordinarily would, it meant that Cienza's goal involved him then having to run the whole length of the pitch along the touchline, cupping his ears to the Portsmouth fans down that side, all the way to the Saints fans at the other end, which I did think was one of the more iconic celebrations of the season so far. And as someone on the T20 squad put it, seeing almost the reverse Mexican wave, just a normal Mexican wave of Portsmouth fans standing up as Cienza ran past them celebrating in order to shout at him was pretty sensational. And then it gave Ibu Adams an opportunity to do the same, equalising just through sheer force of will, forcing the ball home, sort of heading it down onto his wrist or arm or hand, and the ball going in on the line, not spotted by the ref. Not too fussed personally that should be disallowed. Adams, who's a new signing for Portsmouth and just immediately adding exactly what they needed in the centre of the park in terms of ball winning and athleticism, and he is a threat from set pieces as well. I think he got 6 goals in all comps for Derby last season, so massively valuable goal. Cult hero status for Adams already, who frankly is always a very, very popular player wherever he plays. And I think just, Portsmouth definitely deserved to equalise. I'm not sure either team necessarily deserved to win, if that makes sense. But Pompey showing some character, as they have done recently. It's 3 wins, 4 draws, 1 defeat in their last 8. It's not a sexy return, but I kind of like the personality of the team. I think that counts for something in a relegation battle. Saints just the 1 win in 9 for them, and another pretty poor performance. We had Derby 1, West Brom 1, injury time equaliser Chris Mepham, and I'm really happy that West Brom fans had something to celebrate, because it's been a miserable a couple of, 6 months or so. They signed Max O'Leary from Bristol City because between Griffiths and Wildsmith, they had the worst save percentage in the Championship this season at just 56%. So, of course, Max O'Leary comes to claim a cross, drops it at the feet of Adjumang, who puts Derby 1-0 up. Just a huge feature of West Brom games recently. Just errors, individual errors. I'm fairly adamant they're not playing horrendously. They don't look idiotically horrific from minute one, West Brom, but they make errors and then they compound them with, I guess, fear and lack of confidence that comes in the situation that they're in. But eventually, Mepham forced one home. Birmingham won, Stoke won, a goal from Iwata from a set-piece, and then Stoke's equaliser, a Neumann own goal, also following a set-piece. Blackburn and Watford drew 1-1, Kayembe firing home after a set-piece, and then Miller equalising from a set-piece. So lots of set-piece goals in those 1-1 draws. The bottom three at the moment, Sheffield Wednesday on -7, Oxford on 28, Blackburn on 29, and then a dotted line with Portsmouth and Norwich above it on 30. Norwich playing on Monday night against Coventry. So an eventful weekend in the Sky Bet Championship. That's your recap. You'll find exactly the same for League One and League Two wherever you found this one.